Okay, actually, I sent Terry a copy of my slides, and she thought I presented them already, but I haven't. So all the things that she said, John already showed. So this was my 10-year anniversary slide that she already saw, but you didn't mention. No. And the prevention framework, again, Terry talked about this a lot. The primary at the source, along the path, and at the worker. Originally, Terry drew it out on a napkin as individual and organizational, and as we found out other people in academia had thought of this already, we added group and society also. And again, the paper, please download. But yeah, one of the developments of the last 3 years actually was our work on this, and it's very painfully slow work, but it does take time. And the COPSOQ International Network is a really good group for us to be plugged into. I mentioned they are going to present or publish a paper on a number of languages, but they meet every 2 years, and we've attended the meetings in Paris and in Santiago, Chile 2 years ago, and now hopefully in Istanbul this October. And we were wondering if maybe they would like to come to Canada in 2021. So maybe we can hook May Day up with. Yeah, that's our plan. So, and this is the paper. The other thing internationally, I'm not sure if you've heard of ISO 45001, 45001 as the international ISO health and safety management standard. They're in the development of starting 45003, which is occupational health and safety management, psychological health and safety in the workplace guidelines. Is there somebody in the room there that's involved in this? No? Okay. Then I can't answer too much. I did meet somebody who was, but I can't read. Terry mentioned the tools that we have. We have a website, a guide that we're trying to shorten into the mini-MIT guide, the survey, the videos, postcards, the app, a webinar, and the online survey administration. And here again, I want to recognize the CCUHS. This is an old slide. This is their last year's 40th anniversary, but doesn't, and we've just had our 30th anniversary, so. But you were asking about the app. The original app was based on the COPSOQ 2, and it used Danish comparison data. We didn't have any Canadian data back in October of 2014. And you can see it was available in Android, BlackBerry, and iOS. And you can see the BlackBerry tailing out. Unfortunately, the Canadian content is losing, but what's amazing about this is we've probably had over 7,000 by now. We get about 130 downloads a month, and it's still going on. So it's had quite an extended life. You can see every once in a while I do a seminar and I tell people about the app and I tell them to download it, so you see these spikes. So now we have Stress Assess, which is a web app, and it has two versions. It has the personal edition and the workplace edition. And the new app is going to be based on the personal edition. And the personal edition is COPSOQ 3. And does it now have 2019 comparison data as of this month? Last week, okay, so now we're being compared to the 2019. And so this is a web app, so you can access this if you have access to the internet. But, and this is, we launched it in November of 2017, and we've had over 3,000 accesses since then. And about 2/3 of those have completed the survey, and 421 actually volunteered their results to the national database. National database was what Sue Freeman from the CCUHS wanted to call it, but then we found out we got all kinds of people from various countries, so it's not really national completely. The other interesting thing is when we compare it to the EKOS data, those who volunteer the results are generally worse on average than the Canadian average. So there seems to be some kind of a motivation that if you're upset about your workplace, that you want to donate your data to the database. So this was the app in 2014, and this is what the new app is going to look like. And Alan tells me that it will be available next week or the week after in the app stores. So yes, this is a downloadable phone app as opposed to the web app. And it's designed similar to the previous one. You answer the questions from the COPSOQ 3, and then you get a rating for each of the classifications, like job demands. You see a red thing there, and if you click on the little V there, it's an arrow that expands to see what your quantitative demands, your work pace, and your emotional demands are. And if you click onto the little light bulb there, it gives you some ideas on what to do with that particular scale that we're measuring. So there's 7 ideas on how you can address these things, and hopefully they spur other ideas that you can apply to your workplace. Then we also have the Workplace Edition, and what this is a tool that somebody logs on to and creates an account where they can create their own questionnaire for their workplace and send a URL around so people can fill it out. And so far we have set up people who set up an account, 720, in a validated account. Maybe I'll ask Alan. That means the email came back and was validated? Yeah. Okay. And then since updated accounts, since January of this year, 121 surveys created. A lot of these are test surveys, but then we have accounts with deployed surveys, and accounts may have more than one survey, so that could be more than one survey, and since January there's been about 20. And the number of people who call back to ask us, similar to Jeff's issue, you know, once can you handle if it gets too much more popular, can you handle all the calls that come in? So one of the things we ask is about health and safety conditions, and we have 3 categories that we highlight. One is a concern, an annoyance, or actually interfering with the ability to get the job done. And then we have about 12 different health and safety categories, and interestingly, whoops, where did it go? Oh, it's supposed to be a little circle pop up. Psychosocial hazards is the one that comes up the top. And at this was from another survey, not the EKOS stress survey, but in the comments after this survey, we asked, there are only 2 questions about 3 questions about psychosocial hazards in 67 other workplace exposure questions, and 80% of the comments are about psychosocial hazards. The next one after that is air quality, which is thermal comfort and air quality together. And that's from a workplace exposure. You're getting a preview of this, which will be in October? Yeah. Okay. So, and from that, we've developed what we call, with the help of the CCUHS, is an app called Hazard Assess, where we take those aspects that you just saw there, and we create an app where people can go and rate what their concern is, write down where the exposure comes from, and provide ideas on how to deal with that exposure, and also comment on whether these exposures are associated with any symptoms. And then you get a rating, just like that bar graph I was showing you, except this is in circles with icons. Same idea with the colors. And then it gives you some resources on how to, this is the email. You can email your results. This is meant for workers to report hazards. It's kind of an internal responsibility system tool. And then there's also some ideas on and resources on how to deal with the specific hazard. So how do we do it in the workplace? Again, this is a bit with, I think Terry showed this already, so I won't go through that, but get buy-in, recruit, administer, and then the dialogue begins. And we have the 5-step approach. And we learned this the hard way. A lot of times we jumped in and used the questionnaire. You know, you have a tool, you want to use it, and off you go. And then we realized that it's important to learn and organize ahead of time. So learn, familiarize with the basics, deepen your understanding, share your awareness, and identify resources. Then organize, getting buy-in, commitment from other people in the workplace. Then you do the assessment, whatever your tool that you use. And then you make the changes, and then evaluate whether those changes actually made a difference. And it's a continual improvement circle. So once you do the evaluation, you learn again, and it goes around and around again. And so one thing that we've learned from the workplaces is that there's about 4 characterizations you can make about the type of workplaces that are getting involved. And I think Sandra will talk a bit about that from their perspective, from their research too, and it's very similar. The people who are in the early stages are just looking to comply, or maybe even get away with not complying with the minimum regulation. Then you have awareness, where you develop more, and this is focused on the individual's attitudes and stigma reduction. Then you get to the risk assessment and management. This is something I want to evaluate and control as an organization. And then I talked about the positive organizational psychology. In the Nordic countries, it's seen as a tool for expanding the organization. It's more of a positive thing than something that's more risk aversive. And so what's next? With the help of the CCUHS, we should get the app out next week. And then continue to support workplaces. Again, with the CCUHS, we're working on hazardous stress, which has been put on the back burner because of the other app. But this fall, sometime October, hopefully. No. And continue to represent Canada on the COPSOQ International Network. And finally, support the struggle for equal treatment of mental injuries and as physical injuries, both in compensation and health and safety legislation, as per the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Okay.
Great, thanks.
Okay, thank you.